The Sports Vision Spotlight.
Yo, it's me, it's DDP.
Jarrett picks up Page, Diamond Cutter, he never saw it coming, awesome, ripped the door off the cage, referee down to count 1, two, Canyon's in, he's trying to stop the count, 3, he got the 3 count, and we've got a new World Heavyweight Champion.
The master of the Diamond Cutter.
Hey, welcome in the Sports Vision Spotlight. Anthony Notarile, Brandon Zachman here with DDP Yoga Instructor, Guru, Master Motivator, professional wrestler, actor. He's done a lot for his career. Diamond Dallas Page, pleased to be joined with you today, Dallas.
Hey, good to be here, boys.
Thanks for joining us, and I'm glad I can call you Dallas. I was stressing, do I call him Diamond, do I call him DDP, do I call him Dallas, but we'll roll with Dallas.
Hey, I roll them all.
And today we're going to talk about, obviously, a lot of things because you've done so much in your career between the professional wrestling, the DDP yoga. You've been an actor, you're a master motivator, you've helped change lives. We'll get to all that today on a very special Sports Vision Spotlight. But before we get to anything wrestling-related or DDP yoga-related, let's rewind back to your start. You broke in the business in 1988. At the time, in your early 30s now, not putting your age on blast anything here, but what made you decide to break in the wrestling business so late?
Well, I tried wrestling when I was 22, but it didn't work out for me. But I literally was wrestling. I had like 3 matches. I was horrible. But I hurt my knee really bad. And I hit my car when I was a kid. Same knee. The car hit my knee. My face bounced off the hood. I flew 42 feet from the point of impact. So my right knee was still a detriment to me. And when I was 22, I tweaked it really bad. So I had to take some time off, and I got an opportunity to run my first shot and beer bar that had a rock band in it. Let's call it my first nightclub. I would go on to run many nightclubs over the next 10 years. I actually owned a piece of the last one that I had. And I sort of got out of the dream. Because I was a kid, I wanted to be a wrestler. And even in my teens, I wanted it bad enough to head towards that goal at 22 years old. And when it didn't materialize, and then wrestling blew up huge in the 80s, I was so pissed off I stopped watching wrestling because I should have been there. In my mind, I should have been a part of the whole thing, and I blew it. So I stopped watching, and then one night I was flicking the channels, literally with my hands because there were no remotes even back then. And I came across this guy who had these crazy glasses on, a boa, and this crazy do-rag, and it was Jesse Ventura. And I was so pulled in by him, I kept watching, and then who's the first guy out of the gate with a bag over his, like Santa Claus, but this dude, Jake the Snake Roberts, who the hell's that? And then I was sucked in, because Jake was the greatest. I think, Jake A to Z, Ric Flair, you got to put up there. Shawn Michaels, maybe the greatest ever as far as all the technicians. You had everything together, of everything about, what we do. But to me, Jake was the guy because just the way he did everything, from his promos, to his work in the ring. I mean, everything he did out there meant something. And I got sucked back in. And then one night I was, a couple of years later, I was at a club that I owned a piece of in Fort Myers, Florida, and I said, rock and wrestling, man. I was watching a video, Cyndi Lauper video from '85, and it was at the end of the night. I was closing out, my registers, and I had about 11 bartenders on a Saturday night, and got my last drawers from my guy Smokey there, and I said, rock and wrestling, I should have been a part of that. And then that night, he came in the back, and what are you talking about? What do you mean rock and wrestling? You should have been a part of that. I said, well, I tried it when I was a kid, and he said, so what was your name? I said, well, I was a big Handsome Jimmy Valiant fan growing up, so I was Handsome Dallas Page. He went, whoa, you forget about that gimmick now. I started laughing. like, fuck you. And, then we started drinking, and that night, the Diamond Dallas Page, the manager, the Diamond Exchange, the Diamond Doll, all of that was born. And I was writing it on my, I had a calendar on my desk. And, it's just stuff you start drawing and stuff. I just started writing it all down. And about a week or so later, I got interviewed by the Party News Network, a local cable station in Fort Myers, Florida. And they loved my commercials that I did for Norma Jean's Dance Club. And they wanted to know where the voice came from. Like, I would do these deep synthesizers voices, or Wednesday.
Darth Vader style.
Hot leg, all that crazy shit. And I would also impersonate Mach or Hogan or whatever. And I could do Jesse back then, perfect. And I'd put them in the spot without saying it was them. And so they want to know where the voice came from. And just a couple of days earlier, I'm sitting in the back talking with everybody, and I look down at that little, that blotter on my desk. I wrote all that shit down there, and I'm looking at it. The guy asked me that question, and there's a pair of sunglasses sitting next to it. And then I just grabbed them, and I put them on my face, and I said, the voice comes from Diamond Dallas Page today. I was born to be a professional wrestling manager. And I did a couple other things, and I took it off, and I kept talking, and somebody saw that, a guy named Smitty. And he had his own radio show, and he called me up and asked me to come on. I'm like, dude, I don't really do it. I was just fucking around. He goes, who cares? It's radio. And the first show I did, he had Captain Lou Albano on, who I loved. And then Sergeant Slaughter was on the next show. And afterwards, this guy Smitty says to me, he goes, you got a natural gift for this. He said, you should really try to do something with it. I go, do what? I don't do it. He goes, I don't know. He goes, make a tape, do something. I got this buddy of mine named Rob Russin. And Rob Russin, he's a promoter for boxing, because that was his main thing on his station. He was a boxer, and he interviewed everybody from Muhammad Ali to everybody. And he said, he used to be a boxing promoter. Now he's a promoter for the AWA. Here's his address. You should send him a video. So being the creative person that I am, I sat down and I knew enough about wrestling that I could create characters. And I gave one guy the name the Iceman, Rock Hard Rick. Another guy he was chiseled to the stone, phenomenal body, as you can imagine, bodybuilder look. Another guy was Big Bad John, and he was like a coal miner. And then I had Ted E. Bear. He was a midget, and had the Diamond Dolls walk him out with a little collar and a chain around his neck. And I made up these videos and these promos for these guys, and I sent it to the AWA. Never in a million years thinking I'm going to hear anything. And they called me up, and they wanted to know about, me and my guys. They wanted to bring me in for a tryout, and we had to fly ourselves in. And he said, yeah, but we got one question. I'm showing your stuff around, and everybody, likes your stick, but no one's ever heard of you. Where are you guys wrestling right now? And I went, well, those guys can't wrestle. He went, what? I go, well, they want to wrestle, but it's a secret society to find out how to get involved. I said, I could manage right now. I was 31 and a half at the time. And he said, well, don't call us, we'll call you. And what happened? Paul Heyman, probably the biggest stars, one of the biggest stars in the world right now.
Yeah.
Back then was Paulie Dangerously. And Paul had left the AWA, and him and his Midnight Express went to the NWA, which would become the WCW. And that left a huge hole in the AWA for a young guy who could talk. So they called me back, and they said, hey, Diamond, want to give you another shot? Just you bring a couple of those hot girls, all those crazy clothes you wear. Because I wore leopard skin jackets and zebra skin boots and rock and roll shit. That, I looked like a rock star then, big time. And they said, you fly yourself out and we'll give you a tryout. Next thing you know, managing Bad Company, the AWA Tag Team Champions, and I'm on ESPN TV out of nowhere.
So now let's head over to your early WCW days where, you eventually became a mainstay for the WCW in its pre-NWO days. Now, you were there all the way until what seemed like the bitter end. But early on in your WCW career, I know I've heard stories of you hoping to improve your character, and you reached out to Jake the Snake Roberts. Now, what's the story behind that?
Well, I met Jake at that nightclub I was telling you about.
The crazy nightclub stories.
Yeah, I friggin', we had cameras at the front door and the back door, and I could see it came in the front door. I saw this guy who looked like Jake. I guess it was around 87, I guess, around there maybe, 1987. And we had a big, long line. And he went walking in, and I ran around outside of the club, and I said, Judy, does that guy look like Jake Roberts, or does that just be in the camera? She goes, no. She goes, I think it is him. So I fucking zoomed around the corner. Place is pretty packed. And I see him, and I slow way down, and I slowly walked up and go, hey, you Jake the Snake? He's like, yes, I am. I go, how you doing, man? We shook hands, and we became drinking buddies. That's how it started. And he would come by, if you leave Miami and you drive to Tampa, or you drive from Tampa to Miami, Fort Myers is like, 135 miles down in the middle. So it's like, 280-mile drive. So if you didn't want to go the whole way, you stayed in Fort Myers. Well, anytime Jake was working, then he ended up coming by. Him, Ted DiBiase, a bunch of the boys. So that's where I originally met. And then when I was in WCW and I was starting to wrestle, I was down the power plant, and he came in there one day. And as I got out of the ring, I go, hey, Jake. He looked at his page. I go, yeah. He goes, oh, my God. He goes, I thought that was you. And, he goes, how the fuck this happen? And, and I told him the story. And next thing I know, he's working with WCW. It only lasted a couple of months. But it would only be a couple of months before I tear my rotator cuff. And you end up on the bench then. And coming out for surgery. And I knew I wasn't going to. Bill Watts was in control at that time. I was 36 years old with a blown out rotator. No one believed in me back then, except for Jake, which would be later. And he ended up calling me to see how I was doing with my shoulder. And turned out he was split up with this old lady. And, I ended up wanting to stay with us for a couple of weeks, which turned into quite a few months until he lost the Black Cobra in my house. Over that period, he taught me a lot. And a lot of it was psychology, because I already knew how to do all the moves. I did, like he said, I used to have 1,000 moves, then I had 100 moves, and I had 5. But he didn't need any more than that, because he knew how to work and how to grab the people and put them in the palm of his hand. And so he lost his snake in the house, and he went wherever he went to at that point. We still worked all the time together at the independent scene. And then after I went back to WCW, he got back with his wife, and I would go out there to his house and bring my match. He would critique them for me. It wasn't all the time, but it was quite a bit. And he just taught me a lot. So that's how that all came about.
I've actually heard the story when you were inducting Jake in the Hall of Fame. I heard the story about him letting his Cobra loose in your house. That sounds like quite the time you and Jake had when his snake was on the loose. But do you feel, just sticking with Jake for a second, like he taught you the business better than anyone had for you?
Him and Dusty. Dusty took it from a different angle, though. Jake was more about how they're going to screw with you. And how to be ready for that. And, like, he would tell me things that the bookers were going to do before they did them. And, because they didn't believe in me, and they'll tell you one thing, and, and it's understandable how they didn't believe in me when I came back with my rotator cuff at 37, 38, but they really didn't understand my work. They didn't really realize that I was going to be one of the best in the business until I was,
Mm-hmm.
And it was really good that they held me down the way they did, because if it was given too early, I never would have been able to do and have the matches that I had. Just never would have happened. So everything comes in the time it's supposed to come. Like DDP Yoga is becoming a phenomenon at this point. Like, people are blown away, like how much it's blown up. But it was 10 years before anybody knew about anything.
Yeah, I hear you.
And as a disabled veteran, that video blew up 3 years ago, which put a big spotlight on us. But that was 9 years ago. And today Arthur he can still do crazy stuff. Like, he's stronger than I am in a lot of stuff. And I'm pretty impressive what I can do. And proof is in the timing. Like, look at Jericho. Jericho 4 years ago blew his back out. He was done. And I sent him the video of the disabled vet, Arthur. He called me back 5 minutes later. He said, "Steve, you tell me what to do, and I'll do it." And that's how Chris Jericho's journey towards getting back in the ring started. And 5 weeks later of doing DDP Yoga, he was 85% pain-free. He called me up. He was like, "Dude, I'm addicted to this shit. Does everybody feel like this?" And I'm like, "Yeah, everybody does it. But you got to do it like 3, 4, 5 days a week to really feel that." And when when you do what we did for a living, brutally beating your body up, well, if you stop, you're going to just start hurting again. It's like you brush your teeth every day, right? So there's certain things you need to do. And especially when you beat your body the way we did. 3 months later after doing the program, he was 100% pain-free and headlined with Punk at WrestleMania. I mean, you can't write a better story than that. And except, I guess, 3 years later, on his last TV match that he has before he goes on the road with Fozzy, he's got that match with Bray Wyatt on Raw, and he jumps off the 20-foot cage down to Bray on the mat. He's 44 years young because of DDP Yoga. So, you can't write shit like that. I couldn't believe he did it, period.
Yeah, no, I hear you, and we're definitely very excited to speak to you about the origin of DDP Yoga and all it's done for people like Jake Roberts and Scott Hall, and we'll definitely get to that because that's a huge part, if not the biggest part, of your career, all the stuff you've done with that. We'll stick with wrestling right now, WCW, again, talking with Diamond Dallas Page, DDP Yoga instructor, former professional wrestler. I'm Anthony Notarile, joined with Brandon Zachman, having the honor to chat with DDP here on the Sports Vision. Dallas, a few months ago we got the chance to speak with Bret Hart, and we touched on WCW with him, and he had very few, if any, good things to say about WCW. Now, for someone like you, who it was really you and Sting that were like soldiers for that company, especially during the time of obviously the Monday Night Wars, you guys were the mainstays of WCW. Do you see that company in WCW differently than most who tend to bash it? Did you enjoy your stay in WCW?
Dude, of course I did. But was it agonizing at times and stressful? Hell yeah. But I lived a dream at a different level. The people who are bitter because things didn't go exactly their way, well, I don't think things went exactly my way when I got to the WWE, did it?
No, I would agree with you.
Do you hear me bitching about it? I mean, do you? Have you ever heard me bitch about it once?
No, you're the master motivator. You're positive all the time.
Well, dude, it's, because, Scott Hall would say to me all the time, "Dally, how are you always so fucking positive?" Because I work at it. And I'm not all the time. Like, people who are really close to me, like my fiance and my partner, Steve Yu, and they see me when I get depressed or pulled down. I just try not to stay there. It doesn't work. And why? I don't understand people bashing shit that they made a ton of money on.
Yeah, exactly.
And still had a pretty damn good run. So it wasn't as good as you had somewhere else, but that is the way some people are. And people have their own. I don't chastise anybody for being negative or whatever. It's just not who I choose to be. Because ain't nothing good come out of that. You don't feel good about yourself. You don't make other people you're talking shit about feel good. I mean, it's like, I don't get it. But people who have that cross to bear, God bless them, you know, and hopefully you'll get to the other side of it at some point, you know. But for me, man, you know, me today, looking back, you know, especially coming into the WWE, you know, I wanted to do People's Champion versus People's Champion. That would have been ridiculous funny. I would have ended up working, and I knew at the time I was going to, you know, was one of the top guys would ever be able to do this. But I didn't even see him as the biggest star in the world, like he is today. He is the biggest fucking star in the world.
He's everywhere.
And everywhere. Doesn't matter. Everywhere. And no matter what he does.
That's the best part.
It doesn't matter. You know? But I would love to have worked with him. But if it means I wouldn't be where I am today, I would never change any of it, because Vince McMahon taught me the most valuable lesson ever. And what he taught me is when you have a dream, when you have a goal, when you have a vision, don't let anyone take that away from you. Because it may not come out exactly the way you want it to. It may come out way better.
Yeah.
You know? So for me, I wanted to do People's Champion versus People's Champion because I knew that would have been unbelievable. But instead, I had the idea, and I got to tell you this part, let's digress. 2 years before this day, I'm sitting in his office. Like, I knew I was going to end up there, but I didn't know how it was going to happen. And it was times where I never thought it was going to happen because I didn't think WCW would go anywhere, and Bischoff was, you know, running the company, and he was one of my best friends, and couldn't really see myself going, dude, I'm leaving.
Yeah.
Because I would have felt like I screwed him, you know? So I didn't know how I was going to get there. But 2 years before, I'm going to see, I just finished Ready to Rumble. And I'd been off for a few months, and I was showing up in Canada to do my first Nitro. And I flew in the night before. Remember, we had a pay-per-view? No, we had, I can't remember what it was. No matter what it was, WWE, it was a pay-per-view, that's what it was. And WWF at the time was in town doing a Saturday show. So I went to the same place I was, you know, about 8 years earlier or 7 years earlier or whatever it was, at this when they had WrestleMania 6. And I came in the back way. Big Show was, you know, was the champ at the time. He was one of my driving buddies, one of my best friends. So I wanted to come out, and we were going drinking that night afterwards. So I came in the back door. Pat Patterson was like, "Hey, give me a big hug," and he goes, "You got to get the hell out of here. Go up to the Sky Dome," because they didn't want to get in trouble because guys didn't fraternize like that in each other's locker rooms unless they were looking for a job. And obviously, I wasn't. I just signed a multi-million-dollar deal. This is coming off after I blew my back out, the whole deal. So I ended up in Show's Skybox. He does the main event at the intermission, like Hogan always does, and then Rock was the final. You know, so we stayed to watch everything, and then we were starting to leave. And Show goes, "Hey, do you want to meet The Rock?" I said, "You know, I'd love to meet The Rock because Jake told me he was going to be huge." And at that time, I was still quite a few steps over him as far as, you know, who was more over at the time. But Rock was on that rocket, you know, that you just knew anything could happen. But if he kept on this, you know, direction, he was just going to soar. So I went in the locker room. You know, we come in and Big Show goes, "Rock, where are you?" It's a huge locker room there. And he goes, "I'm in the shower." He goes, "Oh, good, because I got this huge Mark who's dying to meet you." I'm thinking, like, you fuck. And I just flipped into it, you know, to say something smart as I said, "That's right, I don't want to meet you unless you're naked and your balls are all soapy." You know, like in The Rock, I didn't realize, but he suds up like a freaking madman. Like, he's like the Michelin Man. And like, I'm walking around the corner, he's like, "Who the hell said that?" Like, you know that voice, but not in that, you know, instance there. Not in the locker room. Like, where do I know that voice from? And he's wiping his shit out of his eyes. He goes, "Oh, a diamond." I started laughing. I go, "See when you get out." So we came out and we sat down and we talked, and he was like the nicest, kindest guy. And I told him how Jake, you know, told him that, you know, that he was going to be a big star when, you know, he was rocking my Fiat when he first came in. He said, "I got to tell you, Diamond," he goes, he's such a good-looking guy. I don't know if I want to fight him or fuck him." And Rock started laughing. He goes, "That would be Jake." And And I said, but he said the same thing about me when I was nobody. And he said the same thing about Austin. So I've been watching your career, man. He goes, yeah, Jake's got a great eye for talent. And I said, I saw you do an interview not long ago, and you were doing this bit where you were being yourself, and then you were being The Rock, and The Rock this, and The Rock that, and then you came back to this guy. I go, very entertaining, man. I go, I just got to tell you, I wish you a lot of luck. Hopefully I'll see you out there sometime. And as I'm walking out of the locker room, almost out the door, I hear, hey, Diamond. And as Big Show gets out of my way, I can see The Rock putting on one of his, back then he wore the $1,500 Versace shirts. You remember that?
Yes, I do.
That look going on. And he said, there's only one People's Champion. And Big Show went, whoa!
Stirring up the pot.
Oh, and I just stared at him. And he's just looking at me. And I just stared at him. And I said, Rock, you're right. And you, my friend, well, you're looking at him. Oh, and Big Show was like, oh my God, you stuffed him. Oh my God, nobody does that to him. Oh my God, it was great. So I get fucked up that night. And I show up back at my hotel about 3 or so in the morning, and I wake up Kimberly. And she's like, well, leave me alone. And I go, no, I got to tell you. I'm going to show up at WWF. She's like, what? She's like, you just signed a 3-year deal. You're not going anywhere. I go, no, when it's over, I'm the end of the WWF. That's how it's going to be. So she's like, okay, what is it? I said, here's what's going to happen. They're going to turn off all the lights. And everybody's going to think it's Jericho. But it's going to go for 15, 20 seconds. And Jim Ross is going to go, hold on. We've got some technical difficulty. And then you hear my voice. Who's the real People's Champion? Spotlight hits me.
Wow.
You're looking at him.
That would be awesome.
Bang! Boom, 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 boom. I even said this to her. I said, Rock will be doing a movie, or he'll be hurt. For some reason, he won't be there, so I'll be able to go and say whatever I want to say, and that'll start the whole angle. She's like, oh, okay, that's good. She goes to bed. But that was burned into my brain. And I thought about it, now here it is. The Rock, when I walk in to that office to be Vince McMahon and Shane McMahon, The Rock is in Hollywood or wherever he's in filming Scorpion King. Like, he ain't showing up for 4 more weeks. So it was, God laid it out perfectly for me. And I let someone derail me from the vision I had.
Mm-hmm.
So now that's gone. So what do I learn from that? Because that, I figured, well, these guys know what they're doing. Maybe they know more than me. And for my character, nope, they didn't. And they had ulterior motives. They needed to show that WCW was a far cry from the WWE, which is its storyline.
Yeah, I hear you.
And if I did it with Rock, it never would happen like that. But it is what it is. So what did I take away from that? Because most people would be really begrudging. Most people would be bitching their ass off, wouldn't they?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, right. But so what did I learn from that? God doesn't put those walls up in front of you to keep you out. The walls end up in front of you to make you see how much you really want it. So for me, when I finally, because I went through some drama, believe me, but once I finally got through it, I realized what I should have done was gotten up from the table when Vince didn't want to do my idea, shook his hand, shook Shane's hand and said, guys, thank you so much for the opportunity. This is, that's an awesome idea, stalker thing, but not for me.
Yeah.
When you're ready to do People's Champion versus People's Champion, you guys call me. Again, a pleasure to meet you both. And left. Like, that would have freaking, that's what I didn't do. But trust me when I tell you, I've done it every single business meeting since that day. And I'll give you the big one. Shark Tank.
Yeah.
We tried for 2 years to go to Shark Tank. We missed the first year. The second year, they called me up because they already had all our shit right away. And they did a phone interview. And then they did a Skype interview with me and Steve. And then we had to put together our pitch reel. And then we had to fill out like 27 pages, handwritten, for their fifth interview. And at the end of the page, it says that you basically cannot do any promotion of any kind for your business without the authority of ABC. So I'm a promotional maniac. I thought if I believe in something, I'm going to tell everybody, and I say it from the top of the highest ladder. The bottom line is that they were going to try to control me. Well, I tried that one time before, and it did not work at all. So I was never going to put myself in that box again. So I was leaving for Chattanooga, which is 90 minutes from Atlanta. And I said to my business partner, Steve Yu, I said, dude, write them back an email, thank them so much for the opportunity, tell them we love the show, but we're going to pass. And he went, what? Dude, we worked for 2 years to get here. I go, I don't give a shit. I said, I already had people try to control me before. That don't work.
Yeah.
I said, I'm not doing it. I said, just tell them we pass. I didn't even pull into Chattanooga, and the fucking executive producers were calling me up going, how do we fix this? Well, rewrite the contract. And they rewrote it, and I went, nope, that's not good enough. They rewrote that contract 3 times before I signed it.
Wow.
It was the best thing I ever did. But I also had control of my own destiny. You know, this building I'm in, the DDP Yoga Performance Center, is the house that Shark Tank built. I owe nothing on this building, the property. I've got $2 million in it.
Wow.
I own nothing. This is the house that Shark Tank built, and all our other promotions that we've done. Because what we do is real. Wrestling is predetermined. DDP Yoga is not.
Mm-hmm. Now, after WWE, you know, you ultimately marketed yourself as the DDP Yoga Guru. So now let's talk about it. First off, Diamond, how did DDP Yoga get started?
Well, you pretty much know my career, but for the people who don't, I just started wrestling when I was 35. My career didn't take off until I was 40. I was in 96. You know, in the beginning of the amazing Monday Night Wars. 97 and 98, I was featured in 13 out of 24 main event pay-per-views or semi-main event pay-per-views. On top of doing Hollywood Squares, Wrestling with Malone, The Tonight Show. I did 7 episodes on The Tonight Show in one form or another. Flying back and forth to L.A. and around, crisscrossing the country, and beating my body up 270 plus nights a year. Finally, my body said, fuck you, and I blew my back out. And I just didn't blow it out. I actually ruptured my L4 and L5. Now, everybody knows you have a spine in your back. What a lot of people don't know is in between your spine, the reason why it moves so freely is it's got these rubber discs that are like shock absorbers. But when you blow out a disc or rupture a disc, it's like taking a jelly donut and taking your hand about 8 inches above it and then smashing it.
Yikes.
That's what it's like. Now, where does all that fluid go? Into your nerve endings. Your bone becomes bone on bone. It's excruciating. It's so painful. You can't even sit up. It's so painful. So I go to see 3 of the top back specialists in the world. They tell me, sorry, kid, you had a hell of a career, but you're done. I just couldn't believe that. You know, I've rehabbed back, both shoulder surgeries, both knee surgeries. I'm doing the back rehab, but it's helping a little, but not really. And then my wife, now my ex-wife, Kimberly, starts trying to talk me into doing yoga. And she's a guy who knows. She knows. When I hear yoga, I'm like, fuck that, I'm doing yoga.
And now look at you.
I'm that guy. So I understand. That's why I developed it for people who wouldn't be caught dead doing yoga, because I'm that guy. So I get it. So she gets me doing it. Thank God. And I was so first. I'm like, I'm not doing this DVD. No, I'm not. It wasn't DVD. It's VHS back then. I'm not doing this one. This guy annoys me. This girl, she annoys me. You're like, no, I'm not going to do it. And then she came across a guy named Brian Kess, who's one of the coolest fuckers I've ever met in my life. And I started doing his DVDs or his VHS tapes. And I was really frustrated because everybody was like Gumby, like a stick figure that could do anything. I couldn't. So I had to figure out modifications, and I figured them out. And like within a couple of weeks, 3 weeks, I felt a significant difference. I'm like, holy shit, this stuff's really working. So what I did one night is, the spiritual mumbo jumbo, it doesn't bother me, but it annoys me at times. And not that there's anything wrong with it. I totally get it. But for me personally, I want to do a workout. I don't need to be calmed down and chilled out all that. I don't want to be. I want to breathe and center myself, but I don't want to friggin' have to chant or any of that shit, So what I did was I started to, I was still doing the rehab. I started to mix the rehab with the yoga. I mixed the old school calisthenics, push-ups, squats, crunches. And then I figured out something really crazy, like dynamic resistance is like when you're flexing or engaging muscles. Like if you're lifting weights and if you're wearing a heart monitor, it will blow your mind how high your heart rate will get lifting weights, because all you're doing is engaging and flexing muscles. Well, I figured out how to do that without using weights. And what it is using isometrics and isokinetics. And isokinetics are just moving isometrics, like lifting weights with no weight. And every time you flex or engage a muscle, your heart's got to beat faster to get the blood to the muscle. So in short, I created a workout, which would now be known as DDP Yoga, that was kick-ass cardio, dramatically increased my flexibility, and strengthened my core like never before with minimal joint impact. So in less than 3 months, I'm back in the ring. At 42, they said my career's over. At 43, I'm heavyweight champion of the world.
Wow.
So as you can imagine, I'm going to keep doing that.
Yeah, it's a smart move.
And I didn't make this workout for yogis. There's thousands of different types of yoga. I don't do any of them. I do a little piece of a lot of them, but I do a lot of pieces of rehab, a lot of pieces of old school calisthenics, a lot of pieces of things I made up myself because they made me feel stronger, they made me feel less pain, they made me feel better. So that's where it all comes from, and I just started sharing it with one buddy after another, and they were all guys. When the first book we wrote, Yoga for Regular Guys, is really our version of what we called, YRG at the time, Yoga for Regular Guys meets tits and ass. It was like smoking hot looking chicks for regular guys. Like that's one thing guys miss big time. Like I'll take you a couple of yoga studios at LA. You've never seen so much hot pussy ever in your life in one place. And they all have great bodies. All of them. Because there's really no fat yoga chicks. They're on their way to being lean. So, big story, long story short, it just worked for me. And I was blown away. And once I helped that disabled vet, Arthur Borman, and I saw his transformation, I thought, wow, this really is something. I never let anybody put their money into this. Any of my partners or anybody put money into it, because it was a dream that I had, and I didn't want anybody pressuring me about their money.
Yeah.
So I had like $548,000 of my own money in this thing before I made a dime, before I took a paycheck.
Wow.
And I never took anything because we were making money. I never took any money out of my money. It would be stupid. I just did more autograph signings, wrestling shows, until I got to where I wanted to go. And, today, we're 3 years away from being a household name. We already are a household name in a lot of parts, of the world. But, in the next 3 years, what we're doing with DDP Yoga now, which is an app / online subscription that is like Netflix, except for its workouts. And instead of movies, it's a lot of inspirational stuff. We've got such a crazy, performer for what we're about to do in the next couple of years, along with the resurrection of Jake the Snake. And I want you guys to get back to me right around August because we're probably going to be releasing the resurrection of Jake the Snake probably through some sort of video online, on-demand type situation where people can, pay to see it online. And we're going to do a big worldwide release.
Wow.
And this movie is unbelievable. And, I'm just so proud of my team. My business partner, Steve Yu, is the director of it. 2.5 years ago, we went down to Gainesville, Texas to meet with Jake. And we brought the cameras with us, and we started filming. And I told him, you lose 20 pounds, dude, on your own. He was over 300 pounds at the time when he first started. When we got there, it was 299. And we started filming it from there on. I said, you lose 20 pounds, man. And I never knowing if he could really do it or not. And I wasn't like banking on it because I told him I moved into my house. And I had to live with another guy in over 20 years. So I didn't know if I really wanted that anyway. But Steve's whole approach was, imagine how good he'll be if he's around us all the time. And, it had merit, but I'm the one who had to live with him, and, it was a real growing process for really both of us. And it's all really raw, man. We had cameras all over the house. I've got a bunch of guys who work with me that are editors, and they all know how to shoot film, and I got an amazing crew here, and they're all over here at the Performance Center now. And now we've got all this crazy high end from cameras. We got all LED lights. We've got this kick-ass sound system. We got a TriCaster. I mean, we've got 5 edit bays. I mean, we've really built an amazing place down here. It's a production studio more than anything. And we just happen to do a workout called DDP Yoga here, and try to help people change lives.
Yeah, and you mentioned the DDPY Performance Center. Can you explain exactly, how that came about? I know you kind of touched on it, but, I mean, what was your mindset in building this Performance Center?
Well, for starters, it was at my house. And when I moved into the place I bought, what would be known as the accountability crib, I wanted a place I could just move my furniture out of the way, and I could fit, 10, 15 people and do a workout with me. And I wanted a kitchen that was big enough that we could film cooking shows so I could show people. Because when I tell them I don't eat anything genetically modified, I only eat really great food. I don't eat healthy food, but it all tastes amazing. And like, well, how do you eat? What do you do? Well, there's no cooking channels on TV who do that. They don't show it. They show stuff that's 1,900 calories that tastes good. That's easy.
Yeah.
Show me something that's got 500 calories that's amazing.
A piece of lettuce.
Or that has no modified, genetically modified food in it.
Yeah.
That's real food. Show me how to cook that. Well, that's what we do. So I started thinking I'd do it all out of my house. But then, I knew that it was only a matter of time before DVDs would be gone. Well, now all these other companies are popping up there with online digital workouts. And the problem for those companies that are doing that is they don't have any people that are draws for them. Like, there's no emotional connection to the people. Mm-hmm. And the ones I've seen, none of them have any transformation. So there's no real, it's just another workout, no matter what. No matter what they do, no matter how good the instructor is, no matter what. It'll always gear to the people who are like P90X, Insanity, CrossFit type people. Those people may gravitate that to do a different workout, but they're going to get bored because they have no emotional connection. Now, if Tony Horton or Sean T, if they want to do something online, they have a huge following. So they will eventually, I'm sure, will end up doing this because it's the future. But they're going to be way behind us unless they're doing it right now because we'll be launching in September. And we will be going, it won't be just like you can buy, still invest in the DVDs, but you also will be able to have a piece of the subscription. So you can see that this app, what we've done, and no one's seen it yet except for our group of people, is we've created something that has never been done before. And, like there's times, I tell you, where I go down, takes my business partner, Steve, he's sitting across me right now, where I can get pretty negative about shit sometimes. I don't stay there, because that isn't going to help me. But, I also have to ride a bunch of people's asses who are creating stuff for us because they just want to give it their way. I'm like, no, that's not what we dealt with. That's not what we agreed to. So, I know that, sometimes you underestimate something, so it's going to cost more. Now, we're hundreds of thousands of dollars, hundreds over what we initially thought we'd spend on this app, this subscription. But in the end, it's going to be worth it. Now, will we hit some adversities once we launch it? It's electronics. I'm sure of it. But I'm trying to deal with as many of those right now as I can. And I'm not going to set myself up to fail by releasing with something I don't feel good about. Like, I think it's amazing, but it's not good enough yet.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And when it's at that spot, it's going to blow. Like, when anybody comes driving into our parking lot, they're going to look at our place and go, holy fuck. Wow. I mean, just driving in. Forget everything and walk you get in. But just driving in, we've created something you've never seen before. Because, it's a building, yes, but it's how we did it. And it was a labor of love that me and my business partner, Steve, and our builder, Rob, when we stand, he was really, I've been Diamond Dallas Page with him a few times, and that guy's pretty scary at times, but, he's a great guy, and he's very creative, and he eventually found our vision, and, now we're in the final stages of it. Like, I bought 2 houses behind us, because they were small little houses, and one was even lived in, and I plowed them all down, and we have, what's that called, Steve, with a picture? Oh, I thought he was in here. I thought he was in here. He's not even in here. It's like, I take the GoPro, will takes one picture. We have those in 5 different places. The front, no, it's 4. The front, the back, the front of the building, which we built up from nothing. There was nothing there. There was 4,000 square feet. We built it at 2,300 square feet with 22-foot ceilings. So we have a camera out there and have had it out there for 6 months. Then we had a camera in the back where we tore down the houses. And then I thought I'd just pave it over. Oh, no. The town, because the Braves have moved their stadium 2.5 miles from my front door on the same street. So they're repaving everything.
Yikes.
They're redoing everything. And my little, paved, lots in the back, no. You're going to have to make that a park. So you can park cars there, but you need to have X amount of trees and this. I mean, it cost me $300,000.
Wow. There you go. There's a number.
The land, yeah. Just the land, just for my parking lot. And I have another one. That's the one I built. But we have those GoPros the whole time, taking flick of the pictures, and then we have it for the inside of 2 different areas, so you can see it like change before your eyes. So this job that we've been doing here, and I have an amazing crew, and it's just going to get better, man. I've got a good amount of money in the bank, so if we hit a little adversity, hitting the app and and rolling it out, we'll be okay. Whatever it takes to get to where we need to go to.
There you go.
So You know, it's just you never give up. Just like the disabled veteran Arthur Borman. You know, the whole theme of that video is never give up.
And that's the dedication that makes DDP DDP, because you're one of the few, if any, that really has that, you know, positive outlook on so many things, and including the wrestling business, which we're going to get back to. Once again, Anthony Notarile, Brandon Zachman, talking with Diamond Dallas Page here on the Sports Vision. As we start to, you know, end this interview a little bit, have a few more questions. I want to talk about this year, because you were able to come back in the Royal Rumble. Fans went crazy. I want to know, what was it like for you coming back, stepping out from that curtain?
Well, you got to know where I came from. Right before that, I was in Park City for Slam Dance and the resurrection of Jake the Snake.
Mm-hmm.
I'd flown from Atlanta to Park City. Was there for 4 days. Then had to sneak out of Park City. I didn't even tell Jake or Scott until I was at the airport. You know, getting up there into Philly, then driving across. So I'm in Newark. They flew me to Newark and drove me over, and then they stuck us in a bus. No one saw us, nobody, until it was time, and it was awesome. Like, I known Cody Rhodes, Stardust, since he was 7 years old, and for him to take the first cutter, as he put it, is so appropriate that I would be the first to feed you. There's a text he sent me.
That's a great text right there.
And I'm a big fan of Fandango, the guy, and what potential he has to be a top guy. You know, breaking out of that character, even though he does the character really well. But he's a great guy, and he's a really talented cat. And then for Bray Wyatt, who's my favorite wrestler today, reminds me a lot of Jake, but different. But, you know, it definitely reminds me of Jake out there. And for him to take, you know, one of the sweetest cutters, you know, out there, and no one's ever seen that diamond cutter, because I came up with that one for the Independence days, so I didn't have to do a lot. So I'd go for a clothesline, duck it, pull it, and it looks amazing. You know, I've done that version of that, you know, since I retired. That became my one to do at the independent shows. I don't wrestle anymore, but we do a little sabi-da thing where someone's getting diamond cut. So I walk out of the building maybe a couple times, but it was great. And then I had to turn around and fly right back to Park City. Then I flew back to Atlanta. That was that was a brutal trips back and forth, but so worth it, because we did a big SummerSlam party out in Park City, and it became one of the hottest top parties at Sundance. And everybody wanted to come. And it was a dry one, no booze. And they still wanted to come, and you know, we let X amount of people come, and they had the best time ever. And none of them knew where I was until I showed up on that TV.
Wow.
And then they all went crazy.
Now, your former WCW buddy Sting finally made his way into Vince McMahon's ring at WrestleMania. Was that surreal to see for you?
No, you know, I thought that, you know, once he went G, and no one's played their career better than Sting. You know, Nash would be up there, Hogan would be up there, but no one's played their career better than Sting.
Yeah.
As far as getting exactly what he wants all the way through. And thought he did a hell of a job. I thought Hunter did an amazing job, because, you know, Hunter's the one who really made that match look what it was. You know, the Stinger did a great job. He's 55 years old. I mean, he did an amazing job. It was great to see him out there. I loved it when Scott and Kev and Hogan came down, and Billy and Kid and all that. I thought that was all great. I thought it was awesome. So I thought this WrestleMania may have been the best one, maybe ever.
Yeah, it was certainly special.
It's up there, you know, no matter how you look at it, A to Z.
Yeah, and Diamond, final one from us over here on the Sports Vision. We've talked about, you know, your DDP yoga. We've obviously talked about your professional wrestling career. Outside of that, you're also a motivational speaker. You're an actor. You do so much. You're a lifesaver in some cases for guys like Jake the Snake and Scott Hall. Now, being all of those things, when it's all said and done, what do you want people to remember most about Diamond Dallas Page?
Well, I don't know what I'll remember most, because I don't think I've done it yet. But who DDP is today, and I think a lot of people will get this. I am the new Jack LaLanne meets Tony Robbins meets straight Richard Simmons. And I just want to be known as that guy who actually gave a shit. And I think that like you said, there's been a lot of things that I've led 3 or 4 lives so far. So and I tell people all the time, man, if I died today, driving out of my parking lot, I had an unbelievable run. I mean, it's not like, oh my God, don't kill me. If I'm supposed to die, I'm not afraid to die. And only because we're energy, and wherever we're supposed to go next. I know I got a lot of really good energy. Someone put on a YouTube, DDP is a karma millionaire. Actually I'm both. But, I'd rather be just a karma millionaire. If I get the choice, I'm going with that one, before the money.
But luckily, yeah, both.
Yeah, luckily, but I worked my ass off and I risked everything, to do this. Everybody laughed at me when I told them I was going to be a wrestler when I was 22. They laughed at me when they told me I was going to be going to run my own nightclub, And I did that. They laughed at me when I told them I was going to be a wrestler again. Oh, God, Michael P.S. Hayes fell down laughing. He later would call me 6 years later after my match with Sting in 1996, which is actually featured on this year's The Very Best of Nitro Volume 3. That'll be coming out. And Hayes called me up and tried to leave me a message, and I picked up the phone, and he was so pissed. Damn son of a bitch. God dang. I go, Mike, you okay? What's the matter? He's like, you don't want someone to pick up the phone, Paige. I go, well, sometimes, yeah. He goes, well, I go, you want me to hang up so you can leave a message? No, son of a bitch. God, son of a... All right. He goes, because I just got to tell you. And he said, never have I been so happy to eat crow in all my life. He goes, man, you're killing it, man. And I turned everybody into a believer. But when I told them I was going to when they saw me with a yoga mat, oh my God, did they bust my balls? Did they laugh at me? When I filmed my matches, when I iced my body, when I told them I was developing my own yoga, oh my God, did they laugh at me? But it just goes to show now, today, if someone's laughing at me about something, I know I'm on to something. Onto something that's going to be big. Mm-hmm. So I don't have any of that right now, so I'm looking at what's my next thing. I'm going to say I'm going to do. People are just going to laugh, And most people, they say, wow. Like Mark Merrow's line is, don't bet against DDP.
Yeah.
So again, I've had an unbelievable run, man. Unbelievable. And I'm just so blessed. Come on in, dude. I'm just so blessed to be in the spot I'm in. So, boys, it was great talking to you. Make sure you get a hold of me in August, and we'll talk about the resurrection of Jake the Snake.
Absolutely, Dallas. Thanks so much for the time once again here on Sports Vision.
Thank you.
You're welcome, guys. Have a good one.